Today we have this time to share, to talk to you, and well, if you have questions or anything, we can share about the topics and about the topics we have studied this course. Simple present, for example, can, can't, frequency adverbs, and okay, the topics you need for questions. Well, I want to show you something. It's a presentation. Well, I have this presentation, but let me see if it works. Good. So let's start here. It's present. And so here we're going to see the different uses of simple present. For example, we have, okay, the first use is to talk about repeated actions. So actions which are repeated. For example, every Monday I go to the park. Every Monday I drink coffee every day. Yes, I play video games every day. This is a repeated action. I take Transmilenio every day, so it's a repeated action. On the other is facts or generalizations. And let's start with repeated actions. Then we have repeated actions. We use the simple present to express the ideas that an action is repeated or usual. The action can be a habit. For example, I wake up. I always wake up at 7 in the morning. That's a habit. Wake up. I like sports. That's a habit. That's a hobby. Excuse me. That's a hobby. Or a daily event, something that happens every day. The train Millennium starts working at 5 a.m. in the morning. So it is something that is every day. That every day happens. It can also be something that a person often forgets or usually does not do. For example, I don't drive in Bogota. I don't like apples. So it's something that I don't do, so it's a habit anyway. Here we have some examples of repeated actions. For example, if I say I play tennis every day, so I repeat. It's an action repeated. And so it can be with simple present. She does not play tennis, so it talks about well, something that I don't do, but it's a habit. It's something that I don't do is a habit I have. The train leaves every morning at 8 a.m. and the train doesn't leave at 9 a.m. It's something that generally happens. Good. Let's see. Facts or generalizations. The present simple can also indicate the speaker believes that a fact was true before, is true now, and will be true in the future. It is not important if the speaker is correct about the facts. The thing is a generalization. It's a generalization. For example, cats like milk. It's something that is general. We imagine that all cats like milk. So we can use, or we can say that in simple present. Birds do not like milk. It's a generalization. Windows are made of glass. So it is something general that always happens. Windows are not made of wood. Good. In grammar, we have to pay attention to he, she, it. He, she, it are, in my opinion, are the most important persons in simple present. Why? Because we have to pay attention to them. He, she, it. When I am writing an affirmative idea, I need to pay a lot of attention to he, she, it. Why? Because the verb has some changes. When it is affirmative, we need to add s to the verb, and we have some special rules. He wants, she needs, and we have other rules. For example, we have when we have a verb ending in x, or ending in sh, or ending in ss, or in ch, or in o, then we have to add es to the verb. For example, he he fixes his car every day. It pushes the door. It pushes the door. He passes. She catches. He goes. So we have when we have x, s, h, or s, s, c, h, or o, we have to add es to the verb. In affirmative ideas. In affirmative ideas. Well, we have some other rules, and it's when we have a y at the end of the verb, as in fly and as in cry, we have to erase y and change it to ies. For example, fly, flies, cry, cries. An exception is when you have a y, but before the y is a vowel, as in play, play, and then we don't erase y, but we write s, place, and praise. In negatives, we have to pay attention to the negatives, because we need the auxiliaries in two cases: in negative ideas and in questions. Negative ideas, for example, I don't, you don't, we don't, they don't, you don't. But she doesn't, he doesn't, it was doesn't. For example, in a question, is the same. Then you have auxiliary do, for I, for we, you, and they. Then, for example, do you like apples? Do you like apples? That is one. Do they speak English? Do you practice in your house? Do they do the homework? So do with I, we, you, they. Do I, do you, do he, do, sorry, do I, do we, do you, do they, something. And he and does, with he, she, it. Does he play the piano? Does she play the piano? Does it play the piano? Well, this is. So auxiliary do, for I, we, you, they. In which cases? In negative and in questions. Auxiliary does, for he, she, it. In which cases? In negative and in questions. Let's see some examples of third person. Third person singular with s or es. He, she, it, we, she. She goes to school every morning. She understands English. It mixes the sand and the water. He tries very hard. She enjoys playing the piano. So we have he, she, it, the third persons, and we have s or es or s according to the different rules. In affirmative ideas, remember. Well, here I have a kind of chart for you to practice. We can replace the verb. Then, for example, if I say play, I play. In question, do I play? In negative, I don't play. You play, do you play? You don't play. Yes, with if I use another verb, and he, she, it thinks, or he, she, it plays, dances, swims. In a question, does he think? Does she think? In negative, he doesn't think. She doesn't think. It doesn't think. He doesn't play. That is we and you. Okay, is the same rule. I think the most important is to pay attention to he, she, it. They are the most important. Mm, good. I'm going to show you something about time expressions. The time expressions that are very important in simple present. For example, every day, remember that every is cada. Every day, cada día. Every Friday, cada viernes. Every week, every month, every summer, every month, every year. So they are time expressions that can be used at the end of the idea. For example, I go to school every day. He visits me every summer. I celebrate Christmas, or we celebrate Christmas every year. Um, I go on vacation every summer. Yes, so every day, every Friday, all of this goes at the end of the idea. The other thing is with the frequency verbs, frequency adverbs. Usually, never, sometimes. They are different. The position is different. I'm going to show you something about the frequency adverbs. Wait. Wait a minute. This one. Adverbs of frequency. Can you see them? Yes. Good. Look at this. Then look. Frequency adverbs or adverbs of frequency is the same thing. Look at the difference between the two boys. He has an A and he has an F, and it's a different habit. Look, I got an F again. I got an A again. Do you do it? Well, he says, I always do my homework and I often ask the teacher for help. You see the position of the frequency adverb? I always, I often, she never, she sometimes. So it's after the person. Well, I am usually. Cuando nosotros tenemos el verbo to be, en este caso el adverbio de frecuencia va a ir después del verbo to be. ¿Sí? En los otros casos, por ejemplo, que es un verbo distinto al verbo to be, nosotros tenemos el adverbio de frecuencia después de la persona. Mientras que con el verbo to be tenemos otro caso distinto. I am usually later for class and I never do my homework. Maybe I need to try your study habits. Look, the different frequencies that they show. 100. I always, 100% of the time, you do an action. He usually you see after the person. He usually studies. Often, regularly, like 70% or something like that. He sometimes it's like 50-50, sometimes yes, sometimes no. He sometimes studies. He rarely studies. You know what? He watches TV and he rarely studies. Raramente. He rarely studies. He usually watches TV. Just rarely. He never studies. So 0% of the time. This is the frequency. She eat. Look at the position of the adverb in with the verb to be. He is sometimes late. The students are never is sometimes. She often checks after the person. She often checks. He usually pays. The dog eats his homework sometimes. El sometimes es un adverbio que se puede ubicar fácilmente al comienzo, al final o después de la persona. Look, at the end, the dog eats his homework sometimes. Or sometimes the dog eats his homework. Or the dog sometimes eats his homework. Hmm. Example, study at my computer. I sometimes study at my computer. You. Now you can do this exercise. Well, if it is you, then what would you say? I study in front of the TV. Where would you write the frequency adverb? And I will say I always, I usually, I often, I sometimes, I rarely, I never. I would say that I never study in front of the TV. It's complicated. I never study in front of the TV. Ask the teacher for help. Always, usually, often, sometimes, rarely, never. You can say I sometimes ask the teacher for help. This is pay attention that this is verb to be. And I say am I am never, well, always. I am always early to class. And so on. Then you can do this exercise in your house on your own. Ever, well, ever is not important for us. No, in our case, no. Never, yes. Always, yes. I always come on time. I never come late. How often is a question. Do you study with a partner? How often do you study with a partner? Is the question in order to ask for frequency. Cada cuánto. See, could say, how often do you study partners? Cada cuánto estudias con tus compañeros? And what could be the answer? It is how often is frequency. Then what's the question? I rarely study with a partner. I never study with a partner. I sometimes study with a partner. How often, what could be this? How often do you, how often do you fall asleep when studying? Example, fall asleep studying. How often do you fall asleep studying? How often are you tired? Look at the question. How often do you fall asleep studying? How often are you tired? So you can do the same exercise with all of these. Then how often do you study in group? How often are you bored? How often do you listen to the teacher? And this, how often how often do you practice speaking in English, and so on. That is a presentation. Well, I hope you have understood the topics better. And it's a shame that you weren't here to talk to you, but okay, gonna stop now. But if you have any question, then you can talk to me or write to me in the platform. Bye bye.